Bye! My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back to another episode of DUK Dogs. I am your host, Josh Miller. And before we get going, let's be sure to thank our great partners. Thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba is the presenting sponsor of this show. Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I currently have my dogs on as we're in mid-season form. And it is a major difference. You know, you are what you eat. We've heard that in the past. We've heard it up to today. You know, fill yourself with junk food and you are not going to perform at a peak level. Eukanuba is that premium quality food that I want my dogs eating and absorbing so that they can perform at a peak level. www.eukanuba.com. Thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. If you need, blinds, you need collars, you need leads, they have you covered. They're a great company and great people. www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel, both in the intermediate and in the large sizes. So no matter what size of dog you have, you can be sure that they're traveling as safe as they possibly can. www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent Cartridge is the ammunition of choice for us. And I cannot say enough good things specifically about the bismuth. I'm absolutely blown away with how well it's performing, how many less cripples we're having, and just the knockdown rather than the hit and watch them sail, and just what we're not looking for as far as conservationists go. So Kent Cartridge has definitely made my season much, much more enjoyable. So go check out Kent Cartridge, specifically that Kent bismuth. And also thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is your premium option for outdoor clothing, whether it is your everyday wear or when you're layering up. Make sure you layer up. That's a big thing here. Get a layered system. You will wear less clothes. You will be more comfortable. You will be in the field longer. You will enjoy your time in the field more. It's just wins across the board. So www.sitkagear.com. And last but not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium option for online gun dog training to walk you through training your dog at home step by step with a video library, a fantastic community, and so many other good things to offer you. www.retrieverroadmap.com. Well, I hope you guys are off to a great week here. I know we're kind of at the tail end of this week, but I've kind of had a little bit of a chaotic week here for me. Quick little rundown and recap is we have had, I'm also very, very tired right now. We have had 3 litters in the last 3 nights, 1 litter per night. And although we knew it was stacked up, just with how cycles came, how progesterone levels were, when these dogs were bred, we knew they were going to be pretty tight. But 3 in 3 nights, it's it's been a lot. Whitney and I kind of joke around, but I think we're also very serious that moments like this, it is God reminding us that we are not in charge and that Mother Nature is going to dictate what hours we work. On top of that, for all of you parents out there, we also have 2 sick children at home, which has been It's been fun. And then Whitney is also battling RSV. And so she has been powering through, her being sick. I'm the only one through it right now. And so I feel good. I feel I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy. So it has been kind of a mess here this week here, and so because of that, I haven't got to sit down and be around my recording equipment here all week. So with that being said, I have two sick little ones sleeping right now, so this is not going to be the longest episode. And if for some reason there's all of a sudden a break and a cut and I reappear through Brett doing some magic in his post editing. You know why? Because I probably heard somebody yelling, or hopefully it's just yelling and not in a bathroom projectiling anything. So here we go. Let's get into this week. So I have a couple of things. I have one thing specifically I want to dig into that was asked as far as traveling with dogs. And I think this is a really interesting one. I'm going to dig into this a little bit, based on this question that came in. I thought it was really interesting and timely, especially because we're in the time of year that it seems like a lot more people are traveling with their dogs, not just hunting season wise, even though I would say hunting season wise, because our friends in the South, season is in full swing. Our friends in the North, they are pretty much out of season, which means if they want to continue to hunt, they have to be traveling south, like myself, more traveling that way. Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, you have New Year's, you have Christmas, break with school. There's a lot going on that just naturally, I think more people are going to be traveling more places with their dogs. And so I want to dig into that. But before I do that, I want to share with you guys something that has really made my week. And it's one thing that I'm incredibly excited to share with you guys because it came through this podcast. So this podcast has literally given me something new in my life that I will forever cherish. I'm hoping that I can even build off this and make it into something more. So if you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, a few things about me. One, that I love to talk, as is probably pretty obvious, that I sit here by myself without guests, without phone calls for the majority of the time, and can just talk, right? So I really enjoy talking. But there's a few things about me that, again, you have probably picked up. And one is that I am obsessive about self-growth. Obsessive. I mean, I think I'm on book 19 for the year right now. And I think everyone but one of them has been a self-growth book. The only one that I haven't was, if I remember the name correctly, it was, I think it's called Among Heroes. Among Heroes is something like that. It's killing me. I can't remember the title of this book. But actually, I'm going to look it up here as I'm talking to you guys. But it is about the actual Black Hawk Down pilot and his actual story. And it is it's incredible. It really is. In the Company of Heroes by Michael J. Durant. In the Company of Heroes. I actually purchased this as an audiobook, which I know is kind of cheating my goal as far as the number of books I'm reading in a year. But as I have so much drive time, it's a way for me to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So in the Company of Heroes, I would highly suggest that, especially if you guys are into the storytelling, because this is him telling the story of the mission of getting shot down. If you've seen the movie Black Hawk Down, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then being in captivity and everything that went on there. I mean, it's an incredible story. But that's the only one that I've read this year that has not been about self-growth. So I'm obsessive about that. I also study elite teams. Again, this has probably been pretty obvious, as I've talked a lot about, the Navy SEALs. I've talked about, the Army Rangers. I've talked about these elite leaders that I like to study and dig into and use quotes from. So I'm really, really into that. And through this podcast, I've found a platform share some of that with you guys and share some insights, my feelings, my thoughts, and my energy that I have around that. And some of the most impactful notes that I have gotten or received, from, email, social media, what have you, is based around that. Like, I do get a lot of dog, comments, and that stuff is very rewarding too, of helping people, with their dog and helping people level up as far as a handler goes or trainer goes. But when someone can tell me that something I talked about significantly impacted their life, or it was exactly what they needed, to hear to dig themselves out of where they were. I mean, that's life stuff, right? Like, the dog stuff is great, but the impacting someone's life that significantly is extremely rewarding. And when I first started talking about this stuff early on, it was one of those things that I didn't know if I wanted to include, because it was one of those things that was so outside of the realm of who people looked at me as. Like, I'm a dog guy, right? Like, who is this dog guy to tell me, how I should grow as a father, as a husband, as a human being. Well, I just kind of got to the point. I was like, I don't care. Like, if people don't like it, they don't have to listen to it, right? To be quite honest, when I started this podcast, I thought maybe Whitney, my wife, and one other person would actually listen to it. I had no idea that they would grow to what it is today. So through that, when people have sent in comments and sent in just little notes about that, the absolute number one comment that I have received across the board, dog related, non-dog related, was that you should be a motivational speaker. And those comments have always been very flattering, but I think I've actually told you as the audience in this podcast this before, that I think maybe Brett maybe said it. Somebody told this to me that was a guest while we were talking. But that is my dream job. My dream job is to be a professional motivational speaker, because there's just something so rewarding and fulfilling to me about speaking and watching eyes light up and knowing you're making an impact. And this started with my seminars, as I would go and teach dog training, dog handling, and when you're making an impact on somebody. You can see it in their face, their body language, their eyes, and that's intoxicating for me. Like, I know I'm making an impact. And what's funny is that I would rather talk to 1,000 people than 10. I don't know why. I just thrive off that. It makes me feel that much more comfortable. And so I love all that, but the motivational speaking thing, I don't think people even really knew that was something. I never shared it with anyone until, I think, like I said, when we talked about it. But my phone rang a few weeks ago, and it was the head coach of the Concordia Academy basketball team over in Minnesota, and he had asked if I would come do this for his team. Now, he and I have gotten to know each other really just through the dog stuff, right? Like, through messages, through the podcast. But he's just one of those people that you instantly know you're working with someone that is a good person, and those are the exact type of people that I want in my life. And so when he called and asked this, I couldn't say yes fast enough. It was just a matter of getting a date. And so, long story short, we did it here this week. It was chaotic just with everything that was going on at home for me, but I absolutely loved it. The looks on the kids' faces, I knew that I had them engaged. I knew that I was speaking their language. I knew that I was connecting with them. And yeah, I absolutely hope that talk would be, or my hopes were that it would be impactful for the season. But also, I mean, these kids are 16, 17, 18 years old. I mean, a good chunk of those kids are going to go on and be in the real world next year. I'm hoping that it was impactful enough to carry forward. So a few things I talked about. I won't go through the whole thing. Maybe at some point I'll kind of break it down. Let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. Maybe I could break down kind of what I talked about in that. But one of the things was the stoplight. Again, if you've listened to this for any amount of time, it wasn't. I think it was just a few weeks ago, maybe, that I did my spotlight or stoplight. Good grief, my stoplight speech. Red, yellow, green. How to keep yourself in the green was really important. Yellow being very important on that. Probably the most important light on the stoplight, because when you get into the yellow mentally, you can still bring yourself back into the green. And then red, of course, is you're out of it. So red, so listen to that. Okay, but I'm giving you a little preview on this because I'm going to tell you something that was really neat for me. So, so that was a really brief version. One of the other things I talked about was my story about 17 inches. And I had asked a couple people, I'd asked Brett, I'd asked a couple people if I had told that story on this podcast before, and nobody thought that I had, which is too bad, because I should tell that at some point. But again, with this being a more of a brief episode, I'm going to give you the very brief, quick rundown of this story. And there's a reason I'm telling you this story. There's a reason I'm talking to you about the stoplight as well, and you'll see here in a second. So I found myself in Vero Beach, Florida. I believe I was 17, going to 18 years old. So I was summer of my junior year of high school. And I was at a camp with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it was a really exciting time for me because of the people that I was around, the coaching staff that I was around, some great players from literally all over the country. It was really a cool place, a cool experience to be. But part of this camp was you went through and you did a few days of skill work, batting cage work, BP, little things. And then for the last 2 days, they broke you up into teams and you actually played games. And so for me, when we broke into our team play, I was very blessed to be put on the team with a coach named Coach Guy Conti. And if you look up Guy Conti, one of the things that you will see, he spent a lot of time with a lot of different organizations. One of those being the Red Sox, one of those being the Dodgers, and one of the most significant or notable players that he had a significant impact on was Pedro Martinez. So if you remember Pedro Martinez, very famous pitcher for the Red Sox, Pedro Martinez called, like, the thing that everybody knew was he called Coach Conti his white daddy. And what he meant by that is that's how impactful he was to his life, was that he looked at him as a father figure. And so anyway, I didn't know any of this at the time. Of course, later on, I do my research and find all this stuff out. So day one of games is going really well. I'm particularly playing very, very well. I'm just on it, right? I feel very good. And if you remember me talking about my past in high school, I thought I was pretty awesome. Like I definitely had that swagger, I think you could call it arrogant, you could call it cocky, you could call it confident. I called it confidence just because I didn't want to call it those other things, but I definitely think all of those are true. And I was very sure of myself, especially my athletic abilities. So when I was playing good, I was feeling really good. So the last game of the day, I was on second. We're down by 1. I'm on second. The batter, who's on my team, of course, ropes one to right field. I take off, rounding third. Now, my third base coach, remember, we don't know each other, right? Like, this isn't Coach Conti, but these coaches don't know us, right? So they don't know how fast I am. They don't know how slow I am. They don't know how much I can read, right? So he's waving me around, but he said, I remember it to today. He said, "Turn and look, your call. Turn and look, your call." Well, for me, there's no your calling. I'm going, right? Like I'm very sure of myself. I'm going. So I turn hard, head for home, and ball gets there, right before me. But I do, and I would very confidently say to this day, I do a very acrobatic but very smooth hook slide, avoid the tag, hit the base on the way by, do a little spin, pop up, jacked up, excited, just tie the game, and then behind me I hear, "Out!" And I could not believe it. So this was if I didn't paint the picture well enough. This would be, I think we were playing 7 inning games. This was bottom of the seventh, 2 outs, right? All that whole deal. So I was going to tie the game to extend it, and I I lost it. Like I jumped up, was very hot. I was emotional. I was yelling at the umpire. I was probably cussing. I was very upset. Well, after that cools down, after those few seconds, whatever it is, I'm walking back to the dugout, and Coach Conti's walking kind of towards me, towards home plate. And I was like, Coach, I was there. And he never even looked at me. He just kept walking. Okay, so I go back in the dugout, try to convince all my teammates that I got screwed, we got hosed, blah blah blah. So I get back to my dorm that night, and there's a post-it there that says is telling me to go to Coach Conti's office at 4 p.m. I think is what it was. Okay. So I go to his office. I'm thinking for sure I'm gonna get my butt chewed out for going, for maybe not reading the play correctly, all this stuff, right? So I get into the office, and I don't believe I even let Coach Conti get a word out of his mouth. And I said, Coach, I was there. That was an awful call. I was there, and I'm going to tell you guys right now to put earmuffs on. Anyone that shouldn't be hearing cuss words, but he looks at me. Of course, I'm at a desk, so I'm 3 feet away from him. He goes, Josh, I don't give a fuck. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like the hair on my neck stood up. I was like, oh my gosh. He said, what you did and how you responded to that was completely out of line. It is my job to argue a call if it warrants it. It's my job to take that role. And your emotions were so out of line that you completely lost your mental edge. He said that is unacceptable. And as a result, you will be sitting out tomorrow's games. And, when he said that, my heart just sank, right? Because I've only got one more day of being here. I'm trying to impress, these coaches and everything, right? And my heart just sank, and I'm sure I looked down, and I was just beside myself. And he said, Josh, and this is where I didn't realize it at the time, but this is a talk that I think about all the time now. Okay. But he looked at me and he said, Josh, you're the best player on this team. And I knew that because you're just how these camps go, right? Like when you're around all these players, when it's there's certain things you just know they're looking at you, right? And a lot of it when it's a short period of time like this, yeah, it's physical talent, it's that, but I could feel it, right? Like a lot of these guys were looking at me, and he said, you let them down today with how you acted because you set the tone. Okay, I would not allow any of my players to do what you did today. And that's why I'm not allowing you to play tomorrow. So you are going to have to sit and watch your teammates struggle without their best player out there with them. Okay. Right. So again, I probably just blank stared, probably eyes down, embarrassed. So then he brings out a plate, a home plate out of his desk and sets it on the desk between he and I. He said, Josh, do you know how wide home plate is? The truth was I had no idea, right? Like I played this game my whole life. Like, why would I know that, right? I kind of looked at him and he said, 17 inches. And when you played T-ball, it was 17 inches. I was like, okay. He's like, when you got to Little League, how wide was it? And I'm sure I was very sheepish and 17 inches. He's like, yep. Okay. Now you are in high school, right? Like, yeah, your high school field right now. How wide is home plate? I said 17 inches. Okay. On these fields out here today, right? Big league fields. How wide was home plate today? I said 17 inches. He said, yes. He said, now, Josh, here's the thing. What happens when we get a pitcher that comes in that can't throw it over the plate? He might have all the nasty movement. He may have the speed. He may have the speed change. He may have everything. But if he can't throw it over the plate and throw a strike, what do we do? Do we say, hey, for this kid, we're going to widen it to 19 inches. For that kid, we're going to go to 22 inches. Do we widen the plate and make exceptions for certain players? I said, no, we don't. And that is why we're not making an exception for you. I was, again, just sitting more in awe and anything, trying to absorb this. He then took out a marker, and you'll have to kind of visualize this with me. So think of home plate, right? So it's got, the flat bottom, straight up on the sides, and it kind of points to the middle and the center, right? And in this home plate, he drew a door. Not very well. Coach Conti wasn't much of an artist, but he drew a little door and he drew two little windows. Looks like a house. He said, Josh, this is why this is more important than what we're talking about tomorrow, than you being on that field. Because if you don't hold yourself to 17 inches and you don't hold yourself accountable, you will never go where you want to go in life. You will have a broken home. You'll have a broken marriage. You will have a broken career. You'll have a broken whatever. It can't be, well, I'm going to try, I'm going to try this drug because that's not that bad, right? I'm going to widen the plate for myself, right? It's, I'm going to break curfew only by a half hour, right? It's not that bad, and widen the plate. If you don't hold yourself accountable, you are going to fail yourself and you're going to fail the people around you. So you need to hold yourself within 17 inches. Okay. Quick version of what followed is I sat there the whole rest of the next day watching exactly what he said would happen, which is I had to watch my team, watch them struggle. They weren't struggling necessarily because I wasn't out there, but during the struggles is where I felt it. And when they came in, they'd look me right in the eyes. They came into the dugout, and there I was, not able to be there because I was thinking of myself instead of the team. Okay. I might tell the full version of that story at some point, but you needed to know that little version for me to tell you what happened here just last night. So anyway, so back to the Concordia speaking engagement. I gave my first off, I think that's a great story. Like, somebody out there needed to hear that story. Keep yourself in 17 inches. Don't widen the plate, right? But anyway, these were part of my presentation I gave to these kids, right? And I feel that I made an impact. I feel like these kids connected. Like a couple of the kids, talked to me afterwards. It was great. So this was 2 nights ago. So last night they had a game, first home game of the year. And I wanted to go to it, and I wanted to see. So I took Ava, my 3.5-year-old, my Colt, my 2-year-old, went to the game, and we were watching the game. And the boys played great. And kind of in the first half, they were in a little bit of a dogfight, right? Like kind of back and forth. The other team was kind of getting an edge, and they'd get the edge back, and it was pretty tight, for most of that first half. And then they were on my end of the court, and I hear one of the kids, like there was a foul. One of the kids got frustrated, and I wasn't even hardly paying attention. I just heard one of the kids go, "Hey, 17 inches." And I literally got goosebumps. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, this did have an impact, right? Throughout that game, I heard 2 different times that one of the kids would say to another one, "Hey, yellow light," referring to the stoplight. You're in the yellow, get back in the green. I think they won 70-39. And they were, I mean, it was close that first half, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's because of my speech. Certainly, these kids are incredibly gifted. They're very talented. They're led by a great coach. They did that. But it felt pretty dang good to feel like I had an impact on that. So pretty special stuff. So I'm now a professional motivational speaker, and I'm very, very proud of that. It's hopefully there's more to come on that. So, anyways, real quick, let's go over traveling with dogs, because this is something that I think sometimes I take for granted because I do it as often as I do. But this next week through the end of January is going to be absolutely nutty for me as far as traveling goes. So there's a question that came in that said, hey, I know you travel a bunch. I don't. I just travel with my dog, and it seemed to be like everything was off. So she was off. Her eating habits were off. She just felt like she was anxious and on edge. She did not hunt like she normally does. Like, do you have any tips and ideas? And so I have a few notes I want to go over here. So when I'm traveling with dogs, there's a couple things I always like to do. The first thing is the dogs are traveling in their crates for safety. The exception to the rule for this for me is in extreme weather, whether that's hot or cold. Of course, this time of year we're more worried about the cold. But if it is an extreme cold, I'm getting those dogs in the cab with me to where it is air conditioned. I know they're comfortable. I just don't risk that, especially if they're wet at all. When after a hunt, if we have a long drive, something like that. Excuse me, but crates are going to be the absolute safest way to travel, especially if you have a Lucky Duck, because that is a 5-star crash test rated kennel that is proven it is the safest way for your dog to travel. Your dogs don't have seatbelts on. That's the risk, right? You get in an accident, something happens, you're buckled in, the dogs aren't. There's a high likelihood that they are going to get hurt. Okay, so safety. I know that we love them. I know that there are babies. I know that there are our family members, right? But sometimes we need to make the decision of what is safe or safest for them, right? So that's one. 2, so long distance traveling, exercise time. I kind of think there's 2 ends of the spectrum on this. I think there's the people that overthink this and think they have to stop every hour. And I think there's the people that don't think about this enough and think that they're just going to power through and the dog is just going to be fine until we get there. So I like to have, so when I drive to Arkansas, which is a 12-hour drive, I have a halfway point that I stop. And at that halfway point, it's more important for me where I stop rather than how often. So you've heard me talk about this before, but if you haven't, or if you missed it, I avoid truck stops. I avoid gas stations. I certainly avoid rest areas. I avoid places that everybody else thinks about letting their dog out. For a couple of reasons. One, because if you are a responsible dog owner, and the sad thing is you are a minority in that fact. Most people don't have their dogs up to date on shots, don't think about the health and wellness of their dog or others. They think that they do, but they're not, right? So you let a dog out. If a dog is going to get to pick up kennel cough on the road, it's the best place for them to pick it up. Is a dog that is carrying it, is in the same area, especially like some of these places have like the dog exercise area that's this little tenth of an acre that's fenced in and every dog goes in there. Like, do not do that. You're asking for, 1, for something to get picked up, or 2, if there's another dog out there, for a fight. Right? You're just asking for something. Okay, so I try to identify these little roadside parks that maybe, I might have to get off the road for a mile, but I like to find these little areas, these little parks that people probably are not going to be at very often at all. And I like to let my dogs out there. I will offer them water. But that's, to me, that's a really good way of doing it, is just, getting into an area, giving them, give them ample time. Don't give them a minute. Like, I like to give them a 10-15 minute walk. I know it makes the drive longer. I know it's not convenient, but it gives them the time. They can get everything out of their system. They can get some water if they'd like, and then we can get back and get on the road and get on the road safely. So, so it's more of where I stop rather than when I stop. And then once you're at the destination, I think this is one that's easily overlooked too, because once you're there, you really need to make sure that you have somewhat of a routine, right? Because your dog is naturally going to be stressed traveling the way it is, unless they're like my dogs that travel all the time. But even my dogs get stressed out. The natural part of traveling, you do too if you really think about it, right? You get stressed out, right? Your stomach, can kind of get in knots. Your eating habits aren't quite the same. Your bathroom habits are not the same. That is the same for your dog. You will find your dog will likely have diarrhea because they are stressed out. So one, I really like the Alpha Dog Balance, and I sprinkle that on my dog's food. Again, Alpha Dog Balance. And it's just a little supplement, a powder supplement I put on their food, and that helps ease that digestive tract, and it just helps them not have that loose stool and that diarrhea that comes with that stress. So I really do like traveling with that. Once you get to a destination, again, think about that. Let's just say you're going to a duck camp. If you go to a duck camp and you just let the dog run all over the place and get in the house and run all over the place, and one, your host is probably not going to love that. Duh. Two, you're just adding to this anxiousness and this stress, right? Personally, like, when I see people arrive at these duck camps and they want their dog just to be out, that's when I see these dogs get stressed out, because they're always trying to keep track. Okay, where's dad? Where's mom? Okay, there's all these other people. There's all these other smells. Their eyes are wide. I've seen more dog fights start because of that at camps, because people aren't paying attention and these dogs are already on edge and anxious. I just think the best thing to do is to get their crate, because that is where they know, that's where they're comfortable, right? Put them in that crate. Let that be their quote-unquote home. Let them be comfortable. Let them chill out. Let them be calm. Of course, you're going to take them out and go on walks, and you're not going to have them in there for 23 hours a day. I get it. But that comfortability and them knowing that, hey, I don't know where we are, whatever, what's all going on around me, but I know this is my spot. And I know this is my crate. This is where I can sleep. This is where I can rest easy, okay? Because if your dog is anxious and on edge for all night, well, of course, the next morning, they're not going to hunt like themselves. They're not going to be like themselves, right? Like, you can't be edgy and anxious. Think about what you do for a profession, okay? Whatever it is. If you're edgy and anxious for 24 hours, you're shipped somewhere, you don't know where you are, you're edgy, you're anxious, there's all this stuff going on, and then you're like, hey, go perform at the peak thing that you're ever asked to go do, and go do it really well. Go. You're not going to do it. An easy one for me is a surgeon, right? I don't want that anxious, tired, on-edge surgeon working on me. So, sometimes you just need to kind of, step back and think about some of that stuff, because it's really helpful from the mindset of your dog. How do we just get the dogs to chill? Another one, while you're on a hunt, bring your own blind if you can, right? So, like, we use a lot of the Momarsh blinds. Well, our dogs know which one are theirs. Right? There's a certain smell, certain feel, certain whatever, like that's the one that they work out of. Well, now all of a sudden, if we go to a place that they don't have their spot, like, it's just adding that familiarity that I know this is my area. Right? Anything we can do to help them be confident. Hopefully you guys don't hear that, but I hear some rustling in the background, so I'm going to guess that one of my littles is getting restless and going to get up. So I'm going to jump off, but we have Missouri coming up next week, and we have our first Retriever Roadmap giveaway winner coming down to Arkansas on Saturday to my duck camp, and we're going to hunt together, and we're going to document that and follow that. So if you don't already, go follow Retriever Roadmap. We're going to document that whole hunting process, and there might be another one coming up. So you might want to pay attention to that. So anyways, thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Thank you to the Concordia Academy basketball team for allowing me to fulfill one of my dreams. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about that. So hope you all have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.